What's going on, guys? It's your boy, the Boxing Lowdown, here for episode number 113 of the Boxing Lowdown podcast, man. And as you can see, delighted to be joined by the main man himself, my father, Laurie from DR, in the building, repping that Jamaica top. That top's wicked, you know. I
Yeah,
like
man, I
that.
like the top. Yeah, I like the top, man. I get enough big ups every time I wear this from everybody, not just Jamaican fans. You know what I mean? But yeah, and big up to the Reggae Boys, man. Good win over the weekend. 1-0 win against Honduras, scored by Damari Gray, who's one of their recent English recruits, English-based player recruits, shall I say? So yeah, man. Yeah, it's looking good for the Reggae Boys. You never know; probably qualify for the next World Cup.
Yeah, hopefully, man. Fingers crossed.
Hopefully,
I'm
it's
ready
about time,
for
isn't it? It's
that in
about
America
time.
as well.
It's about time, man. You know what I mean? But it's a very difficult qualifying group. But anyway, we won't digress. I know you got a lot to talk about.
We have
But
got a
yeah.
lot to talk about today, man. So as always, let me just first of all shout out everybody in the chat. I've got my man Stefan up in there. Big up Stefan, bro. Good to have you here, brother. Himanshu is here. Francisco is here. So we got a few people up in the chat early. We got a lot to talk about today, man. It feels a while, even though it was just over a week ago. It just feels a while since the last show. So a lot to catch up on. But
Well,
before
that's
we do,
boxing, man. That's boxing. What do they say? It's the gift that keeps giving. You know what I mean?
it really is. It really is, right? But listen, before we do, as it is a Monday, we're going to tap into our Mythical Monday video for this week. Get your quick reaction to this. And I don't think you've seen it because I've only just posted it.
No, I've not seen it.
So I want to get you off guard again for this one. Just your quick thoughts on this before we get started onto today's show. How do you see this one going right here, man? Prince Nassim Hamid against Guillermo Rigondeaux, 122, 126. I'd say the weight. How does that go, really? Because I can only really see two possibilities in this: Rigo on points or Hamid knockout. But let me get your thoughts on this one, man. How does it? Who owns this one? Like, who will get?
Prime for prime, Rigo all day long. All
Okay.
day long, yeah.
Wow.
I'm
Okay.
actually
Wow.
one of those people that think that Nazim Hamid was quite overrated, to be honest. And when I say overrated, I don't want people to come at me, oh, Laurie, this and that. What I'm saying is he was a fantastic fighter. But to me, he had fundamental flaws that was exposed badly when he fought Barrera and towards the end of his career when he could no longer rely on his athletic gifts, of which he was supremely athletically gifted and very entertaining, big puncher, all the rest of it. But I just think someone like Rigo, man, with his athleticism, with his superior reflexes in terms of defense, because Hamed, even in his prime, used to get caught with big shots.
Mm.
Whereas when Rigo was in his prime, you couldn't hit him with a bag of rice. You know what I mean? I just think that Rigo was a big puncher as well at that weight when he was a lot younger, and I think it'd take him to school, man. I really
You
do.
don't you don't think Hamid could drop? Rigo been dropped before. You
Yeah,
don't think
yeah,
Hamid
he's
could
been dropped
drop him?
before, and I guess there is the possibility that Hamed could knock him out. There's always that possibility, but failing that, it would be a one-sided fight to me.
Okay. Wow, that's probably the easiest one
But
to
that's
judge.
just my opinion. These things are subjective. But as I said, I do think that Nazim Hamid, for all his talents, I don't think he was a very good boxer.
Mm. Well,
Um,
listen, guys, I've uploaded that video to my channel literally like 5 minutes ago. So go and have a look and see what I think about that.
I'll check
Stefan
it out
says
as well.
Rigo.
I'll check it out.
Yes, Stefan says Rigo on points. Francisco says Rigo on points. Himanshu's asked me a Yard and Canelo. I can't touch on that right now, bro. But yeah, it's Yard and Canelo. Who wins that? K23 is going to touch on the subject that we're going to roll into right now. He's put here free Bomac. He's locked up eating beans on toast. Stefan says here Bomac on top bunk or bottom bunk.
Oh, that's wicked, man. That's
That's bad,
no,
man.
don't do that to Bowman, man. Don't do
That's
that to
bad,
Bowman.
man. But let's get into it, man. I mean, shocking story, really, and one that still baffles me. It's happened. It was happened well over a week ago now, I believe. After Chris Eubank Jr.'s spectacular win over Liam Smith, Bomac on the way home from England, literally boarding a plane to America in Manchester, shifted at the airport, got caught with a gun in his luggage, a loaded gun with ammo. You know, got caught, arrested by the police, now charged by the police, on remand in custody until October the 9th, I believe it is. this is a serious situation for Bomac, man. I dropped a video on it on my channel at the time, but yeah, some time has passed and I haven't seen much movement. So I'm guessing they're just waiting for that particular court date. But this is serious, man, because as you guys know, you guys in the chat will know. I'm sure Francisco is aware now, but he's in America, of course. But over here in the UK, guns are strictly prohibited. You know, even the police don't carry guns over here. It's a serious thing. Do you know what I mean? So there's so many questions around this. How did he get into the UK with a gun? Is the gun his? I've heard conspiracy theories about the gun might have been planted, and you know, it's a wild story, and I just can't get my head around it. And I really don't know at this point. I mean, I say conspiracy theory, but how the hell did Bomac get over here with a gun if it is licensed and registered in his name? Because even if you took a private jet or you flew private, you would have still had to have been checked by customs with your luggage, right? Otherwise, anyone would do it. People bring shit over here from everywhere if that was the case. So obviously, he would have been checked. But who would have wanted to plant a gun? There's so many questions here. I just need you to try and bring some stability to this because I just don't really know what to think about it.
Well, listen, man, I wish I could shed more light on it other than what you've already said. But one of the things I would say is that the way we are in this country, the laws regarding to guns is one of the reasons why I feel blessed to live in this country. I've got to say that. So I actually feel protected by the laws. Although, as you know, Daryl, especially living in the inner city in London, places like Luton, like yourself, there is a lot of gun crime that goes down. Can you imagine if the laws weren't so strict?
Mm.
You know what I mean? Things would be a lot worse. So I'm actually one of those that's very glad that we've got such strict gun laws in this country. Now, turning to what Bomac did or is alleged to have done or whatever, I just could not make no sense of it. I'm like, right, I'm like, what was he thinking? Like, you know what I mean? Like, I know, we now know days later that he came into the country on a private jet, and people are telling me that when you fly privately, the security is not as the burden of strictness is not as much as it is when you fly commercial. But even so, man, he's 53 years old. He's not a silly man. I'm sure he's flown here before and other countries. I mean, even in America, where the gun laws are a lot more relaxed than they are here, there are certain things you have to do in advance of flying with a gun, even if you're a license holder. So I remember years ago, I think you may remember this, Robert Guerrero, when he was fighting Floyd Mayweather, he got caught with a gun in his possession at New York. And the fight nearly got cancelled. He was going to go to jail for that as well. They need to, all sorts of things went on, maneuvering in the background to get him to the fight because there was talk that they might throw him in jail because New York has very strict gun laws. You know what I mean? America's a federal state and different states have different laws. But New York, where he was traveling to at the time for the press conference with Floyd, they got very strict gun laws there. So they were about to lock him up and throw away the key. But yeah, with Bomac, I just don't understand what he was thinking. I don't go along with his conspiracy theory that somebody packed his gun to me. That's just nonsense.
You ain't heard the
But
Daniel
maybe
Finham story?
it's nonsense because some people are just so incredulous as to why this man would travel here with a gun. And then I've got to mention it. I don't know how true it is. There was video going around last week. I'm pretty sure you may have heard it by now, where the voice appears to be Bomac, and he's talking in the video about last time I was here, they robbed my purse or they tried to
No,
rob
no,
me.
that's a video.
Yeah,
That was on that was on I think it was the Eubank Smith preview where Bomac said, "Yeah, last time I was here, you know, someone tried to rob me, and that ain't happening again."
yes. So I'm
I'll
sure the
send
police would have asked him that question. What do you mean by that?
I'll
You know
send
what
you
I mean?
that
But
video. Yeah, I'll send you
yeah,
that.
yeah, I've heard it, and I'm like, it's not a good, that video is not a good look for him either, is it? Because you're basically issuing a threat, aren't you, to anybody that might want to, you know what I mean, try and approach you in that way. So it's not looking good for him. And herein lies the problem as well, is that from what my understanding is, he's been arraigned until the 9th of October. So he's got to stay in jail until the 9th of October.
Yeah.
And we all know Bomac is a big man. It can't be comfortable for him in prison surroundings.
Mm.
You know what I mean? So I personally think he's been very silly. I do believe it was his gun. Actually, I think that is now factual, isn't it? That it is his gun.
I don't know. I don't
I
know if
heard.
that. I don't know if that. I haven't seen enough
Oh,
development.
okay, well, I thought I'd heard them saying that it is his gun. So he's admitted to it in that regard. I guess his line of defense will be that he wasn't aware of the laws, but then you've traveled there before.
Like
You know
Ian
what I
said,
mean?
Ian did say that earlier. Yeah, he's been here before with Khan.
Yeah, so, and he's 53 years old. We're not talking about a 17, 18-year-old man. And he's a licensed gun holder in the States. So I'm pretty sure that to be issued with a gun license in America, you kind of got to have a certain amount of, how can I put it without sounding disrespectful, a level of intelligence, a level of intellect that would suggest that you know certain rules. You know what I mean?
Mm.
So I just
Yeah,
mind blowing, man, mind blowing. I do wish him all the best though, because I don't think, and this is just my opinion, I don't think that he's a bad person. I just think that he made an unbelievably foolish mistake, and he does have to be punished because as much as we love our boxing and we like Bomac and he's a real character and he's a trainer of what we most of us consider to be the pound for pound best fighter in the world. In fact, a lot of people are saying Bomac is online to get the trainer of the year this year. Which yeah, but that shouldn't cloud the fact that, you know what I mean, he's broken the law here. So, and it's a very serious law. Those laws are in place for a reason. And unless you've got a one hell of a reason for bringing a gun into the country like that, you are going to get punished.
yeah.
So I do fear for him, man. I do fear for him. And of course, even if he gets away with no prison time, it's unlikely whether he'll ever be allowed back in the country again.
Let's go to some comments here. Himanshu said, "Is it Bomac in jail or just arrested?" He's in jail and he's charged. So he's in charge and he's set to appear in court over here in the UK. So he's remanded in custody over here in the UK until October the 9th at least, which I expect it to be more. Do you know? DS in the building, my brother, man. He says, "Good evening, family. I hope you're both doing well." Stefan is killing me today, man. He said apparently somebody robbed Bomac's Haribos last time he was in the UK. So he came strapped up this time. Himanshu says it will be written in his license, right? The name of the gun. I don't know how gun licenses in the UK work, but in India, the name and model of gun is written in the license. Well, in the UK, you're just not allowed a gun. Like,
Yeah,
you're not allowed a gun. Like, you're just not
yeah,
allowed one. In America, you could be licensed with one. But the question here is how did he bring it over? How did he not know about the gun laws over here? He's on video talking about, you know, him being robbed last time. It ain't happening this time. He's in deep shit, man. And I'm
it's
starting
in
to,
deep shit,
I,
man.
I want to get your thoughts, like, because, you know, the minimum term for being caught with a gun over here in the UK is 5 years. So
Yeah.
looking at it like that, unless he's got a tremendous lawyer,
I'm
um,
sure. I'm sure he'll get afforded one of the best lawyers that money can buy. I'm pretty sure that his team back in the states are taking care of that. But even then, this is such a damning case, man. It's almost open and shut, isn't it? So unless he's going to go down the line of somebody else packed it, but then we've all travelled. What's the first thing they ask you when you go to customs and they say, "Did you pack this yourself?" Yes. You know what I mean? So I don't know, man. I don't know what's going to happen, but
mm,
I do fear for him, and I'm worried for him. I'm hoping that you know they don't consider him to be a threat in that way. They're going to look at it as maybe he did make a mistake, albeit a very foolish one, very very foolish, extremely foolish. But they might say to him they don't consider him to be a threat or a danger. Punish him in the way of a fine, and maybe remove his right to travel to the country for a long time or whatever length of time. You know what I mean? But
mm,
I mean, as I said before, as much as we like and respect Bomac and we admire everything he does for boxing, at the end of the day, the country has those laws for a reason, and you can't just have anybody coming over here and riding roughshod over the laws, especially laws like that. This is not even drugs, bro. Like, you know what I mean? This is guns we're talking about here. You know what I mean? I mean, what if somebody did step to Bomac in a way that he thought was aggressive, and then he did pull out the gun, and then what? I mean, what was he think? I mean, man, it's just I can't believe he's been this silly.
Mm.
It's just
Stefan says
beggars
here,
belief.
let's go to some comments here. Stefan says, I can't see him getting trainer of the year after this debacle, which is a real shame, to be honest. Francisco says here, what about firearms for hunting in the UK? Good question. Yeah, do you know the policy on that with regards to firearms for hunting?
Well, they're
Obviously, I know
different type of
very,
firearms, isn't it? They're like shotguns and stuff like that for hunting rabbits and stuff like it's totally different ball game.
I'm sure you're
This man was
totally,
found with a loaded firearm in his luggage, and not only do you get that statutory sentence for carrying the gun, I'm informed that you get more time for every bullet in the chamber. Is that right? That's what I heard.
sure. Yeah.
So it's not looking good for him, man. It really isn't. It really isn't, man.
Mm.
I mean,
Ian says,
I hope something can be worked out. I mean,
Ian
he
says
does have
here,
to
to
be
Laurie's,
punished, but I hope something. I hope he doesn't do custodial time over it. He's got a family and all that stuff. So
Ian says here, to Laurie's earlier point on gun laws, if our laws were relaxed in Glasgow, it would be the wild, wild west or somebody who lives near there. So I'm glad we have our laws. Dia says here, the boxing community shouting out free Bomac. Bro, if that was me or you, we'd be looking for it. Yeah, we would. We would,
yeah,
man. You know, there's no way around it. So obviously, like we said, there's nothing further to update as of now, but we do know he's currently being remanded in custody until October the 9th, I believe the date is. And we'll find out more then. He hasn't entered a plea yet of guilty or not guilty, but he will have to on that particular court date, I believe. So, yeah, I'm sure there's going to be further developments from now until then. But yeah, if that gun is like licensed to Bomac and it's got his prints on it, then I can't see a good outcome from this, man. I
I think
can't.
it must be looking something like because if you notice, his team have not said anything. They've not denied that it was his gun either.
Mm,
You would have thought that if it wasn't his gun and it's so-called stitch up, as some people are suggesting online, then someone somewhere would have come out already and said, "Look, man, this is not him. There's no way you would do this. It was a setup." The fact that no one yet has come forward and said anything kind of leads you to believe that it was his gun and that he did pack it himself.
mm,
But yeah, man, I wish him the best because you're looking at a man who it would appear is in poor health anyway. Because you know we've all seen Bomac, the size of him and stuff like that. I'm sure he's got health issues. No one wants to be going to prison at 53 years old. Like I said, if he is convicted of this and found guilty, hope they'll show him some leniency and consider him as a non-threat who made a stupid mistake. And obviously, he's got to get punished. But I'm hoping something can be worked out. That's all I can say, really. But you just can't do this type of thing. You can't. You can't do it.
no, you can't. Big up Daniel Chambers. Good to have you here, bro. He's on the side of where just he's hoping that it's a setup, but it's because the story's so crazy. Do you know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
it's an unreal story. Like nobody would have thought that this would happen. But Dia says
Boxing
here,
throws up some pretty bizarre stories, and this is definitely right up there with one of the most bizarre ones you hear. You
mm,
know what I mean? It's another
so
one
yeah,
that's only in boxing, isn't it? Because can you imagine? I can't imagine a tennis trainer or a football manager or a coach doing something similar to this. Once again,
no.
boxing, man, hitting the headlines for all the wrong reasons.
Well, some other headlines that is hitting boxings for the non-reason is the current heavyweight champion of the world, Tyson Fury, who had the press conference with Ngannou last week, did a series of interviews with these boxing platforms who seem to be scared to ask him the questions that we want to hear. But what we did get from one of those interviews was that he's not interested in becoming undisputed. It appears that he's mapped out his career from now until retirement. He's not interested in fighting Usyk. He's not interested in AJ. They're all bums. They're all dossers. They're all this. They're all that. And after Ngannou, should he win that fight in October? I call it fight, but it is what it is. He then wants to fight Ngannou in a cage. Then he wants to fight John Jones in a cage. And then he wants to do this and that. And really, Diaz said it great. He tweeted it, and I want to let you know what the tweet was because it's very true what he said. He said that a lot of people are to blame for this with regards to Fury's behavior. And with that, we include the boxing fans that, coveted this behavior. We include the pundits like
Not
Darren
me.
Till.
Not me. Don't
Yeah, not
include
us,
me in
but,
that.
but not us, but let me carry on. Like a lot of people are to blame in this because they co-signed this behavior. They thought, oh, Fury, haha, all of that crap.
He's a
And now,
character.
yeah, he's a character. He's great. Oh, Fury, he'll beat them anyway. Oh, we don't need to fight them. Now you've enabled that behavior, and now Fury is running with it, and he's saying what he says. I mean, this guy, first of all, he does change his mind like the weather. Do you know what I mean? Like one day he'll say this, then he'll say something else tomorrow. So whatever he says, you take it with a pinch of salt. But if we are to take this seriously, now I don't take much from him seriously, but if we are to take this seriously, and his actions have proved that he might be willing to go down this route, it's very damaging for the sport of boxing. I blame the WBC, who seem to be enabling this behavior. Shamefully, they came out and they said that they're going to put make up a belt for this event. Anything to attach their name, like a bunch of groupies, right? Attach their name to this stupid event. They're enabling this behavior from Fury. So with that sort of thing going on right now, it just throws boxing into disarray. Fury's right at the forefront of it with this whole, I'm not interested in becoming undisputed or fighting anyone. And it's just a real problem in boxing, man. And he should be stripped. He needs to get stripped.
Absolutely. But now I'm going to say something that might surprise you, Daryl. This may surprise you because I'm going to say this. For once, I'm going to give Tyson Fury a slither of credit. And I'll tell you why. Because this man has just told you lot all what people like me and you have been saying from time about he's not interested in undisputed. He's got no interest in unifying the belts. He doesn't care about boxing. He just cares about himself. He cares about the money. Now he's come out and told everyone. So now he's come out and told you, all those people that were capping for him and riding his nuts and saying, oh, no, leave him alone. And Muhammad Ali did it. And all this, like, what are you lot saying now? What are the WBC going to do now? He's embarrassed them with that statement because he's basically saying, I don't give a toss about your belts and your WBC and your world titles. I'm doing what I want to do. I'm making my money. And if you don't like it, you can get lost. Usyk, forget about the belts. Joshua, Eddie Hearn, everybody else in boxing, I'm doing what I want to do, and I don't care what you lot say. Now, we've been saying this from time. Hope the WBC, if they've got even the slightest bit of dignity and respect for themselves, will take back their belt. But no, they won't. In fact, what they're doing is making a belt for the Fury-Ngannou charade, is what I call it. That's not no fight. That's a charade.
Look, what about this comment? What about this comment right here from Ian? And listen, I like the Fight Disciples as well. I do like Adam Catterall. I do listen to what he says, but they're saying, Ian said he's literally just watched it, and he's saying that they're saying it's all smoke and mirrors. Is that based on any facts, or is that just their opinion? Do they know something that we don't, or is this just opinion?
I don't really. I know who the Fight Disciples are. I don't really watch that much of them, to be honest. Because what I tend to find with a lot of these guys is that they'll go in on Fury, but it'll only be so much. Probably because they know that down the line they're probably going to have to interview him, or you know what I mean. So even though these guys TalkSport do it as well, you'll get Simon Jordan who's like, "Oh, it's a ridiculous thing," and then the next breath, "Yeah, but we love you, Tyson. Yeah, we want you back in the ring." You know what I mean? So they won't go full in on it. And I think Fight Disciples, I'm not saying I've seen this latest video of theirs, but before I get frustrated with people like them as well because they're half in and they're half out. You know what I mean? So I don't tend to really take too much store by what they say.
I don't. We'll see if it's smoke and mirrors. Unless they know something, I'm not going to take their word for it. Unless they
no, but regardless whether it's smoke and mirrors, if the man's gone out on record publicly and said, look, I don't care about the belts, I'm doing my own thing, surely the WBC, like I said, if they had even the slightest bit of respect for themselves, slightest bit of integrity, dignity, self-respect, they should at the very least be saying to Tyson Fury, you have to defend that title within 60 days of Ngannou or we're stripping you. But they're not going to do nothing because at the end of the day, they are in it as well because they're going to be getting sanction fees money from this fight. The one thing we do know, well, we don't know, but it would appear that it's going to be doing well commercially, this fight. So they'll make money from it, which is why they don't want to take any action against Fury. Disgusting. Again, only in boxing. Yeah. That's what the title of this show should be. Only in boxing, you know what I mean? Because the things that go on in this sport, man, is just, You wouldn't see it in any other sport, even UFC. You would not see it. You know what I
Yeah,
mean? So yeah. So at least, at last, Tyson Fury's shown a bit of honesty about what's going on with regards to this particular situation. He's saying, "I'm not interested in defending your belt. I'm not interested in Usyk, Joshua, anybody else. I'm doing my own thing. If you don't like it, F you." That's pretty much what he said. I'm paraphrasing a little bit, but we all know the message he's sending out there. So for once, I'm going to give him a little bit of credit because at least now he's being honest. It's up to the
mm.
WBC. Let's see what they do now that he's come out and said this. Well,
Yeah.
we know
Let's
what they
see.
do. Nothing. Diddly squat.
Let's see. Stefan says, "Hey, would the heavyweight division be?" I know your answer to this one. I know what your answer would have been to this question here. Would the heavyweight division be in a better place if Wilder beat Fury?
Listen, the heavyweight
Could be
division would
yes,
be in a
very
better
much yeah,
place if Emmanuel Char beat Fury at this rate because the
yeah,
man shouldn't be in boxing. You know what I mean? The man's openly said with gusto. You know what I mean? He don't even feel no way. The man said, "Yeah, when I fought this fight, I'm having a rematch with Ngannou in the cage."
mm,
The man's just, you know what I mean? And like you said, there's been a lot of enabling going on. Your Gareth A. Davis and all these guys. You know what I mean? Your Simon Jordans, your Talk Sport Collective, all them man there. You know what I mean? Ha ha! Tyson's a character, yeah. You know what I mean? He's a great fighter. You know, he's a little bit edgy, but hey, he's a great fighter, and we love him. This is what he does. This is what he
yeah.
does.
Well, I mean, I think it's only
Not
right
to
because
mention he's a drugs cheat as well. I'm always hearing these guys take the moral high ground, ban cheats for life. And then the next breath, the very next breath, you know, they're calling Tyson Fury one of the greatest heavyweight champions of all time. They never ever talk about him failing a drugs test. And then that ridiculous fallout when Fury and his team were trying to pay off some farmer to say that he'd eaten boar meat, and the guy said no. They made me do that. They've never ever mentioned that, you know what I mean? But yet they want Conor Ben banned for life. They want Alicia Baumgartner, the book thrown at her. And quite rightly, the book should get thrown at drugs cheats. But when it's somebody who they consider in their interest not to go after, they won't go after them. Or if they do, it will be a very lenient, very low key criticism. Oh,
let me
yeah.
just let me just say this as well, right? Because this is a reason why I don't really watch these these major platforms anymore. So these major platforms, right? Because they're not asking what I want to hear, and I'm just tired of hearing these particular questions. I get it. I understand your position in that it's totally different to mine. I'm not seeing you face to face. You know, you got to make a living doing what you're doing. So it's not much of a criticism aimed at you. But this is just my reason as to why I don't bother watching them anymore because number one, they all ask the same thing. So it's just literally on repeat. You know, you go to one channel, they say one thing, they go on another, they say the same thing. And then they're not asking the questions that I want. And because if they do, then they know that they're not going to get the access to interview them anymore. So I don't pay attention. I can't remember the last time I've sat down and watched nearly an hour long interview. I can't remember. Or Tyson Fury or Frank Warren. I'll just see
Well,
clips
if you
online.
did, the first 15 minutes of it is just complete dick riding by the guys interviewing it. That's why I stopped watching it as well. Because
Yeah, but
literally the first 15 minutes, they'd be asking Eddie Hearn about, oh, what clothes you wearing? Oh, I see you got a nice pair of shoes. Oh, you got the Gucci belt on. It's just sickening, bro. You know what I mean? I'm not going to call out no names, but they're pretty much all guilty of it. You know what I mean? That's all you get from these guys, man. You know what I mean? Because they want those credentials, or they want the tickets to fights, they want the access to the fighters, and I get it, man, because I kind of was in that world before, so I understand the dynamics of it, right? So I'm not totally going in, but what I'm saying is those guys have also compromised their objectivity when they do stuff like that because they just come across as complete dick riders. You know what I mean?
Himanshu says here, Gareth A. Fury, lol. Literally.
But you know what I mean? Like, so many people have got so much bad things to say about Gareth A. Davis, Gareth Arsehole Davis, as I've called him in the past. But you know what it is? We have to be honest. Right now in boxing, he is certainly in this country, he is the premier journalist for boxing in this country. Whether we like it or not, that is the truth.
Mhm.
Whenever there's big fights, his name is always, he seems to be the go-to man on Sky, on TNT, on YouTube, queuing up
Listen,
to interview this guy Cat for Tyson Fury.
give me Steve Bunce. Give me Steve Bunce over Garrett. You're gonna roll your eyes. Yeah,
Really, really.
yeah. Give me Steve Bunce, man. I'll take Bunce over him all day.
Yeah, possibly, but just trust me, the message is not that much different, though, is it? Let's be honest. No, now
Stefan says,
I'm just keeping it. That's just my opinion. Some people will disagree,
mm,
but Gareth A. Davis is the pitch, though, when it comes to stuff like this. And you know what it is as well is that I did some stuff for DR Boxing a few months back. We went to Your Call Small Old Show, and I actually ran into Gareth A. Davis, and he was trying to say hello and conversate with me, and I just couldn't do it. I could because I thought, no, I've been slagging this man off, right? Online. He probably doesn't know who I am. He probably was just being polite. So, respect you for that. And I just couldn't engage. He was trying to talk to me and I just couldn't. I had to walk away. I thought, no, I'm not doing it, man, because this guy, man, I don't like anything he does in boxing.
mm,
So why am I going to sit here and pretend that, it's all good, have conversations with him and all that when, I hold him responsible for a lot of the stuff that Fury does. Not just him, but, he is that prototype so-called journalists that we have in boxing these days that you used the word earlier, Daryl. They're just enablers and they just make me sick.
yeah. Big up Pennzoil, so I hope I pronounce your name right. But he says here, never mind Fury. AJ is scared to fight Wilder and Fury. Well, look, we're going to talk about AJ in a bit because I'm almost getting with you on that Wilder point. I'll talk about that a bit more. But I'm not by any scared to fight Fury. No way. Actions speak louder than words, and Fury's just not doing it for me. But before we move on to that, I want to talk about, since we're in Riyadh and we're talking about that event. Just your quick thoughts on David Adelaide and Fabio Wardley. That little scrap that they had, man. It was more
Yeah,
David. I should put David Adelaide's mate and Fabio
yeah.
Wardley because
Well, I
boy,
think you spelled Adelaide wrong, actually. You got Adelaide in the city in Australia. It's Adelaide.
oh yeah, my
It's
bad, my bad.
Nigerian. Yeah, so I think it's Adeleye. But anyway, we all know who you're talking about. But yeah, I saw that, man. I met David Adelaide in Westfield. He seemed like a very nice young man. And when then I started seeing him online, like with this kind of roadman thing. He seems to have a real problem with Fabio, man. Fabio seems to really get under his skin. You notice that?
Mm-hmm.
Because I don't
Yeah.
think he's like that with other guys, is he? I've not seen him like that with anyone else. And certainly when I met him in Westfield, this is going back a few months now, but he was the perfect gent. You know what I mean? But anyway, I saw the incident, and I must admit, I was like, "Raw, man, this looks genuine." You know what I mean? That's not no manufactured beef, man. There's some real feeling in there, and
Yeah.
I felt a bit sorry for Fabio, man, because all he did was walk over to find out what was going on, and David Adelaide pushes him in a way that wasn't just a little push, man. There was some real aggression, some real aggressive intent. Then, of course, Fabio does what most people would do. You get pushed violently like that, then you want to go back at the guy. And then it would appear, I didn't actually see the blow, but it would appear that someone threw a punch and then he went over. So it
Mm-hmm.
wasn't a good look for him. But I
I'm
guess
looking
at the
forward to
very
it.
least, man, it's made the potential of that fight, man, very interesting indeed now, isn't it?
Do you think that the cut that Wardley suffered might affect the fight? I haven't heard nothing yet, but
I've
obviously
not
he's
heard
not
nothing to
boxing,
the.
is he?
It didn't
So
look like a deep cut. It didn't look like a deep cut. But then, if it's a cut that might prevent him from sparring, then any fight date they had could possibly postpone it. And in boxing, you know what I mean, when fights get postponed and it drags on and on, you never know. One day the promoter might say, "Well, actually, we got a better offer for you, Fabio." So, you know what I mean? So I'm not sure if this does work in the fighter's interest. Certainly, Adelaide is going to get fined for this, I would imagine as well. Um, to be honest, it's not really a good look, but I guess people were entertained by it because I did find myself watching that video over and over, trying to pick the pieces out of it and see what was going on. But
mm,
wow, yeah, man. But really and truly, these guys need to rein it in a bit, man, because all jokes aside, that could have gone seriously left, didn't it?
yeah,
That could have gone seriously left, man, because a lot of the times what you find with these fighters is they turn up to these events with entourages, right? And as a man that's grown up in this country and seen a lot of things over the years. Sometimes it's not even the two main guys, as it were. I've seen it so many times, even on the street level. You know what I mean? And all it takes is one hothead from either team, and it's just gone completely left. Someone's got seriously hurt. The police are involved, and we're looking at something far worse than what we saw the other day. So I do think the fighters have a responsibility to behave themselves a lot better than what they're doing in with regards to certain situations. Because let's face it, man, Adelaide and Woodley, they could find ways of hyping up their fight without resorting to stuff like that.
Yeah,
You know what I mean? So
yeah.
it doesn't need to go there, man. You know what I mean? And Adelaide just looked off, man. You know what I mean? He looked like he was he was looking for smoke, bro. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
I
he
don't know
was. Yeah,
what.
he
And
really
like I
was.
said, that is just so at odds with the guy that I met. You know what I mean? So
Mhm.
I can only imagine that him and Fabio, it's pretty personal. Words have been said. Maybe they've been going at it online, and you know what I mean. Man's ego's got triggered, and he's probably thought, "Boy, it's on site next time I see him." You know what I mean? And see, that's the thing now. So now that's happened to Fabio, you got to wonder the next time those two are in the same building, they've got to be so careful. You know what I mean? Because I'm sure Fabio's got his boys in Ipswich. Adelaide's obviously got his man. Them
Mhm.
man will be saying to Fabio,
It,
"So
it,
listen, man. Next time you go in London with Adelaide, we got your back." You know what I mean? This is, you know what I mean? This is where it can get. It
this
can
this
go a
is
bit left.
confirmed, right? This fight is confirmed. Adley and Wardley, or is it
Well,
not?
I think they were there at the press conference because they were on the verge of confirming it. I think that's
But
why
it's
they
not
were
right
there.
now.
But
Mm.
no date has been given yet. And like you said, with the cut on the eye, it could now be pushed back.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, man, it's regrettable. Even though, yes, you can say it was entertaining, and it's got people talking and tongues wagging. But the way that thing went down, it's not a good thing, really. I've got to be honest.
Yeah, Francisco, we're going to touch on that topic in a minute, the Haney, Prograis, Stevenson, Martin situation. But before we do, since we're on the heavyweights, let's just end it with this here. I want to get your thoughts on this, man, because I'm seeing this starting to float around now. And I mentioned it to you on the show a few weeks ago. It's looking like that AJ may have an interim fight before Wilder, if that does happen. He came out on an interview and said that the Saudi thing is not as clear cut as it was before for some reason. Might be to do with skills challenge, I'm not sure. But whatever it is, the energy, I think we can all agree, the energy has not been the same
No.
since AJ beat Hellenius the other day with regards to fighting Wilder. Because before that fight, it was AJ and the team, well, maybe not AJ, but Eddie Hearn especially. They were saying, look, that fight's next. It's pretty much done. Yeah, that's happening, blah, blah, blah. And I think they really set the pulses racing for that fight in December by, gassing everybody up, saying, yeah, it's going to be AJ and Wilder. If AJ beats Thing, it's going to be him and Wilder. Next is going to be it. So when you're doing that, people like me, you, everyone, we're just like, wow, man, can't wait to see this. And then now we're seeing, he didn't have a great performance against him. He got the knockout. But now the energy seems to be a bit different. While they're not throwing that fight out completely and they're suggesting that it still could be next, you get the feeling that AJ and the team are probably going to take an interim fight in between. And to me, that's frustrating. If that's the case, I would have accepted that before, but you've already planted it in my head now that these two are going to fight in December and January, and now we're not going to get it. So to me, yeah, maybe they're not ducking Wilder completely, but it doesn't look good. And I want to get your thoughts because you picked AJ to beat Wilder, even based off that performance last time out. But to me, this don't look good. This suggests that there's still a bit of lack of confidence there. Or do you believe the narrative that maybe it is down to the Saudi team, the Saudi-based team over there? Maybe they got more shit to sort out. But yeah, what's your thoughts on it, man?
My initial reaction to this is one of disappointment because I was hoping that a fight would be next. And I'm going to say this, even though I'm a big AJ fan, but we got to be honest about these things. I think it's fair to say that had AJ had looked impressive and got Hellenius out of there when a lot of people think that he should have done, then I don't think we'll be talking like this. You know what I mean? I think that the team around AJ, notably Eddie Hearn, would be far more effusive in getting the fight done. I just think that since the fight and the fallout from the fight, I think Eddie and the team have sort of looked at things and think maybe AJ does need another fight before he goes in there with Wilder. And I think that's what we're seeing now. They're kind of creating the pathway for there to be another fight before we get the fight, if we ever get the fight. Because what's disappointed me about this latest development, or shall I say lack of development, is it's almost like a deja vu, isn't it? It's almost like we're going back in time 4 or 5 years ago when these guys were, it was being mentioned that they were going to fight, and there always would seem to be this little loophole that would stop things from happening, you know what I mean? Whether it was talking about purses or conditions, you know what I mean? It's just, and I just find that it's almost like we come full circle. We're doing the same thing again, and it's very disappointing. I mean, we've got to be honest, man. We criticise Fury quite rightly for some of the BS he's done, but with these two, man, it's like, put it this way: if you're a casual boxing fan, or if you're one of those guys that don't really interact with boxing that much, say you're a UFC fan, but you like your little boxing, you are going to go to your boxing fans like me and you and say, see, I told you this fight would never end it. And what can you say as a boxing fan? You're going to say, well, actually, you're right, you know. It's just a bad look, bro. We were told that this fight was going to be next. What is the problem? So what if AJ didn't look good in his last fight? You know what I mean? That's stuff like this happens. In fact, I would go as far as to say, if you go down the history of boxing, that's why a lot of fights get made. Because you will get people that didn't look particularly good in their last fight, and then all of a sudden people want to fight them. That's just a natural order of things. I'll give you an example. Prograis and Devin Haney. Why do you
We're
think
going to
all of
talk.
a sudden Devin Haney's putting his hand up to fight Prograis? It's because he didn't look good in his last fight. You know
We're
what I
going
mean?
to talk
So
about that.
yeah, okay. I don't want to digress into that, but you know what I'm saying. The point I'm trying to make is you don't have to look stellar. I mean, look at Canelo. He didn't look stellar in his last fight. I would imagine that was a good reason why Jamel Charlo thought, you know what, I'll take that fight. So it's very disappointing, man. You know what I mean? Very disappointing, and I'm not gonna sit here and cap for AJ and his team. I'm very disappointed. I don't think he needs a warm up fight. All this stuff about get your confidence levels up. Wilder's not fought for like 2 years. He had one less than a minute of action against Salinas. Yes, he knocked him out a lot quicker than AJ did, but you know what I mean? Stars make fights. I mean, AJ knocked him out very impressively as well in the end. I thought that, you know what I mean, they got this guy, Derek James, and they were working towards the AJ fight. So to hear now that there's going to be an interim fight. I mean, who's to say? So what happens if AJ doesn't look good in the interim fight?
He better be careful with these interim fights.
Yeah. No, but what I'm saying is, what happens if he doesn't look good in that fight either? Do they have another interim fight? Or do they say, oh, you know what, you've had two interim fights. You've not looked good in any of them. Maybe we'll go down a completely different route. What would that make him look like? AJ really and
Oh, but
truly
look, I
doesn't
mean,
have too many other people to fight than Wilder, does he? I mean, okay,
no,
I know he can fight other people and make money in high profile fights. But in terms of his career path, he needs the Wilder fight, man. You know what I mean? Because he's
yeah.
coming off the back to back losses to Usyk and two relatively unimpressive performances. So, I mean, who is he going to fight next then?
Yeah,
Disappointing,
Ian,
man. Disappointing.
Ian, I know you're a fan of AJ. I know that, but I have to keep it real, man. I can't back him in this situation at all. I think that it's looking bad on them
It
because
is.
the indication I'm getting from Wilder and his team is they want this, man. They've sat out and wait for AJ. You know,
Exactly.
they're waiting for AJ, and
No, but
AJ
I
is
think that
someone.
I actually think that them adopting that very arrogant attitude towards AJ makes it a more winnable fight for AJ because you could see that they're not even bothered about
Well,
getting Wilder in the ring.
we
You
need
know what I mean?
to tell AJ that then, because like,
So to
what's
me,
going
they're
on here?
kind of playing into AJ's hands a little bit with their arrogance. So I would have thought that even more so should want to take the fight because the man's not fought for 2 years. He's had less than a minute of action in the last 2 years. So you're not going to tell me that he's primed and ready for a fight of this magnitude. So they should be going through with it, man. At the end of the day, yes, AJ did not look overly impressive. Wasn't as bad as what a lot of people are saying, to be honest. He won pretty much every round after the second round. And then he knocked the guy out with a highlight reel knockout in the, was it the eighth? You know what I mean? It wasn't a great performance, but it wasn't terrible.
It
Yes, you
wasn't
can
good.
talk about
It, wa-
confidence
it wasn't
issues.
good.
It
It wasn't
wasn't,
good,
no,
man.
but listen, man. Oh, yeah, but what I'm saying is, though, AJ's getting on, you know what I mean? He needs to take this Wilder fight, man, because I don't think it's a good look to go skirting around and, oh, he needs another fight to build his confidence. Come on. He's had two
Yeah,
fights.
especially what you guys were doing before that fight with Hellenius and White. You know, you were saying, you were telling us it was next, and you know,
That's right.
it's not a good look. It's
So
not a good
just
look.
like a lot of the, no doubt the Fury fanboys will say, well, what's the difference? You know what I mean? Fury's not fighting Usyk, but your boy's not fighting Wilder. Why are you not saying nothing about that? And they'd be quite right to highlight that, to be honest.
Yeah.
When is this
Well,
fight? I mean, it was first muted many years ago, and now 2023, we're still talking on maybe next year, a couple of fights first. Oh, come on, man. It's a joke
yeah.
team.
And while we're on the topic of ducking, man, I think it needs to be spoken about as well here. Uh, this guy might be one of the most avoided fighters in boxing at the moment, and that is Shakur Stevenson, man. The fight with Frank Martin was supposed to be set. This was the third person now in line to fight Stevenson for the vacant WBC belt. Lomachenko turned that down. Isaac Cruz turned that down. Frank Martin, the next on the list for the WBC rankings, was believed to have agreed to the fight. So we were like, finally, Shakur Stevenson's got an opponent. Then the contracts were sent by Top Rank to Frank Martin and his team. They then told Top Rank, this is according to Mike Coppinger, a boxing insider that knows his stuff. Team Frank Martin then came out and said, we don't want the fight. For whatever reason, we don't know. Frank Martin has been getting, been hit from pillar to post on social media about it. Shakur Stevenson has got onto him about it. And he's since tweeted since then, Frank Martin, and literally only said, I ain't duck shit. Like, bro, that's not enough for me. I need you to explain what's going on here, because that is not that's not justification of what you did. Actions speak louder than words. And listen, I'm not Shakur Stevenson's biggest fan. I've said it on here before. You've said it too. I'm not his biggest fan, but in terms of talent, you can't look past it. The guy has tremendous ability. We know that. And it looks like he's an avoided fighter at 135. I think it's hard not to admit that, whether you like him or not. People don't want to fight this dude. And he wants to fight them, it seems. 3 people have ducked him now. So, yeah, I mean, what's your thoughts on it, man? Because,
Yeah, again, disappointment. That is my initial reaction. But the one thing I would say is that we don't really know too much about it. So we know that the fight was muted. We believe, although we're not sure, that a contract was sent. So I have a number of questions. I mean, was a deal reached or not? Was a contract sent or not? Was the money right? Has he been offered an alternative fight? Is it because Martin, we know he's PBC fighter, Al Heyman, they don't often do business with Top Rank? Has that got something to do with it? Is there some, you know what I mean, political shenanigans going on in the background as far as boxing is concerned?
well, let me
So,
tell you
while
this.
I'm not
Let me,
ready
let
to
me,
throw Frank
let me,
Martin under the bus
let
just
me,
yet.
no, wait, no, we've got to. Let me say this. With the WBC, it goes to purse bids first, and they cancelled the purse bids because a deal had been agreed. So that's with PBC and Top Rank. So it would go to purse bids if you're next in line for a mandatory shot. They cancelled the purse bids because they said, yeah, we've agreed a deal. Then Top Rank sent the contract over to Frank Martin, and then now they've done a U-turn. So that's
Yeah.
the whole
But
point of it.
why? Yeah, we need more information, though, don't we? I mean,
But
just
what info
because,
do you need?
no, but now what I'm saying is just because the money appears to have been agreed, that there's a lot of other T and C's in the contract apart from money. Maybe they weren't happy with that. Maybe they were set because we know that this goes on in boxing as well. Sometimes people send contracts over and there's not much in it, and the contract gets sent back. That happens a lot. Is that the reason why? I mean, we need to know more, really. I admit it doesn't look good on Frank Martin, but until I find out more, I'm kind of loath to just throw him completely under the bus because this would appear to be out of character with some of the stuff that Frank Martin said before, isn't it? When he was saying, I want these fights, I want Shakur, I want this, I want that. I'm not turning down nobody, I want all the smoke. He's been quite vociferous. Then to see this happen kind of leads me to believe that maybe somebody in his team is having an undue influence and telling him to reject the fight. I don't know, man. I think I need more information before I can try and get my head around this. You know what I mean?
So, do you need more information on Loma, who ducked Stevenson? Do you need more info on Isak Cruz? Because they also ducked him. Are we giving
No,
them
no, but
enough?
Lomachenko said that he didn't want the fight. He said that quite clearly, and he said he's not interested in the fight, and he's got other plans. So that means as we all know by now, he's going to be fighting George Kambosos, which we all, let's face it, that is a far more winnable fight for him than Shakur Stevenson, which is exactly why he's gone down that road. Um, you know,
Well, I mean, Stefan says here about Tank, yeah, and this is where I'm confused, and maybe you or Stefan can help, or anyone else in the chat that's here. The reason why Isak Cruz was alleged to have avoided the Shakur Stevenson fight was because he believed that he was next in line to fight Tank, right? I think we all thought that was the case. But then there were rumors going around that Frank Martin has decided not to take this fight with Shakur Stevenson because the Tank fight will be next. They're just rumors. So we don't know anything factual here. But the same can't be said for both of them. So whether it's
yeah,
Isak
I've heard
Cruz
that rumor, and then I've heard that there's no truth in that rumor because Tank will be rematching Isak Cruz in his next fight. So I don't know what to make of it, man. But it just seems very strange to me. And like I said, seems a little out of character for what I know, the little I know about Frank Martin. And even the statement that he issued was quite glib, wasn't it?
yeah,
All
as
he's saying
Francis
is, "I'm not
said,
ducking shit."
I ain't duck shit. That's all he
Yeah. So
said.
what does that mean? That somebody in your camp told you to pull out the fight? Then
Yeah, I
you
think
know what I
so.
mean. So that's why I'm wondering if whether there's some shenanigans going on behind the scenes. It could be that Frank Martin's not happy with what's going on. That statement kind of reads like that to me. He's saying, "Listen, man, it ain't me," but then he's not exactly going to throw Al Heyman and PBC under the bus. Kind of similar to what happened with Fabio Wardley and my
Mm.
man Fraser Clark,
Yeah,
where your team pulls you out and then you're the one left looking bad on the streets. Everyone's saying, yeah. And Fabio Wardley, like, he was really upset, broke down in tears apparently on one occasion and said, listen, it ain't me, man. I really wanted the fight. But, you know what I mean? My team have advised me to go down another route. They've invested money and time in me, and I've got to listen to them. So, but what I do know, yet another disappointment. That's three straight now, isn't it? So we spoke about the Fury, Ngannou debacle, AJ and Wilder, and now this. And this is coming off the back of a year when we have had some very good fights.
mm.
You know what I mean? And now, as we're entering into the autumn of the year, this is starting to re-emerge again.
Mm.
And boxing, you know what I mean, was doing a good job in the first part of the year in trying to relieve itself of that reputation of people ducking each other. Now, all of a sudden, man, it's swinging back in the opposite direction a little bit, you know what I mean? Which is disappointing, as I said. But I
Yeah.
think we do need to know more before we go all out on Frank Martin. I need to
So
know more.
you're willing to not let it slide, but you're willing to hear
No,
it
no,
out.
no, 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 no. I said I want to know more. If it comes out in the days that he's the one that's behind turning down the fight, then he'll have to answer to that. But what I'm saying is, we've seen it in this country with Fraser Clark and Fabio Wardley, where one guy wanted the fight, his team pulled him out.
Okay.
And like I said, from the statement that Frank Martin put out there today on social media, I ain't ducking shit. As soon as I read that, I thought to myself, so is he saying then it's not him? Is it somebody in the team? Or is there something wrong with the contract? Has another opponent been offered to him and his team has said, listen, man, we've got this fight lined up for you. We think this is a better option. So, I don't know, man.
Let's find out. I mean, it's for a vacant belt. Apparently, Frank Martin would have got a career high purse of over 1 million. So it would have to have been a good deal. But let's move on to the last thing I want to talk about today, and it is about a fight that's been confirmed. We're gonna get it. Devin Haney and Regis Prograis is pretty much set for the end of the year. It's given the chance for Devin Haney to move up to another weight division and pick up a title. Regis Prograis is, as we know, a very good fighter, world champion at 140, holds one of the belts. Devin Haney, undisputed lightweight champion. I think that will be that title will be gone after he goes for Regis Prograis. But yeah, this is confirmed. Good fight. I like this fight. Good personalities, the both of them. They've agreed a site and venue. I can't remember it now off the top of my head.
I think
But
it's San Francisco in
yeah,
December.
at least this fight is agreed. At least we've got this to look forward to. Are you putting it up there on that list of very good fights for the year? Are you looking forward to
Yeah,
this?
yeah, 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 yeah. I mean, I did say earlier, and I stand by what I said, that maybe the catalyst for this fight was the fact that Regis Prograis looked, let's face it, he looked pretty poor in his last fight when he defended the title against, was it, what's the guy's name? Zarilla?
Yeah,
Zarilla. I think it was that Zarilla.
it was. Yeah, I think.
Because if you remember, if I remember rightly, I'm pretty sure I do remember this rightly. Regis Prograis, when he won the title against Zepeda, he looked very good. I think he stopped him in the 10th round. And then he had his first defense back in his hometown. And I've got to admit, man, he looked terrible. You know what I mean? Well, put it this way, he looked very beatable. So Devin Haney, who at the time was a lightweight, undisputed lightweight title, he's probably seen that and he's thought, raw, you know what I mean? That's an opportunity for me to grab another belt. And the machinations is that here we are with them two fighting. It's a very good fight. It could go either way because I think it's fair to say that whilst Devin Haney is the better boxer, younger, quicker, better jab, better fundamentals, Devin Haney, I think it's also fair to say, is the much bigger puncher. He's the older man, stronger at the weight. So it kind of evens itself out a bit. It could be one of them where you got to get your tactics and your performance right on the day. Otherwise, the other guy's going to come out victorious.
Mm.
So, yeah, I like that fight, man. I like that fight. I like both the fighters, and I think that would be a good fight for boxing, definitely.
Stefan says here, great fight. I've got Haney on points or Regis KO, but I think Devin Haney wins it, to be honest. Ian says here, man, it looks like we're getting a fight. I'll go with Haney, but Prograis will bring it to Haney. I agree with both of you guys. I predict Haney to win this on points, but the threat of a knockout is there from
Yeah,
Regis
yeah,
Prograis for sure. So it's a very good fight. And I think that the build-up will be pretty entertaining as well.
yeah. The
But
two camps have already started dissing each other
yeah,
on social media and all that. So
let me just say this as well, man. I've said it before. I'll say it again. We all have our opinions here, but for me, there's not everything that I like about Devin Haney. But out of all the young bucks in and around that way, the Ryan Garcias, the Tank Davises, if you want to call him young, he's 26, 27 now. He's still young. Devin Haney, Shakur Stevenson, the Frank Martins, he's 30. But yeah, you know what I mean. Out of all those guys in and around those weights, I admire Devin Haney due to what he's proven over the last year or so, what he's willing to do to go out and get it. It's hard not to admire that. And
no,
I
I'm
just
with you
want
on that. I'm with you on that. He's one of my favourite fighters for that same reason. I mean, here is a guy that he took the low ball offer to go to Australia. Everything was against him. He couldn't even get his dad in the country in that first fight against Cambos. Well, he came at the last minute, but there's a lot of problems there. Soundly defeated Cambosos when everything was stacked against him. Went back to defend again on favourable terms to Cambosos. Beat him again comprehensively. Come out of that fight, took on Lomachenko, beat him. Okay, it was a close fight. Some would say a controversial decision, but it was a decision I agreed with. So he seems to want the big fights and the big names, and he's called out Prograis. Like I said, it could be that he called out Prograis when he saw Prograis struggle with Zarilla, who himself is a decent boxer. But I think Devin Haney, in terms of skill, has more to offer than Zarilla. So he's probably thinking, yeah, man, step up to light welterweight, get myself another belt. But I like that, though. You know what I mean? I like that. I like the ambition. I like the confidence. I like the fact that he's trying to be active. All things that some of our guys in boxing are not too willing to do.
Yeah,
So yeah, I've got a
I'll
lot of
say,
admiration for him in that regard.
listen, I'll say honourable mention, and I think he deserves it. I mean, some will say that he ducked Haney, but some will say Haney ducked Stevenson. But Teofimo Lopez has turned it around in terms of, you know, beating Lomachenko the way he did, then losing, and then coming back and beating Josh Taylor the way he did. You know, he's took that step up as well. I think that should be, yeah, some of these guys are doing it. But I think Teofimo, in terms of that fight with Josh Taylor, really impressed me. So, yeah, I'm not saying it's only Devin Haney, but I'm just saying I've liked the way how he's navigated his career and the risks he's taken. The Stevenson thing will be a cloud there because you'll get people saying that he avoided Stevenson,
I don't think he
but make
did.
that
I
what you
don't think he
will.
did.
You know,
No.
yeah. Good
And
comment
not
from
only
Bob.
that, I've seen enough, and even if those people think that, I think we've seen enough from Devin Haney, even if they think that, for them to give him the benefit of the doubt on this one, because by no means clear, because they're alleging that the contract was sent, they offered Shakur Stevenson a certain percentage, and he turned that down. So there's a lot of back and forth. We don't really know, you know what I
Mm.
mean? But like you said, and like I said, the thing I like about Haney is that he's willing to get in there. He's willing to take on the challenges, fight for the belts, be active, and that's what you want, especially with young fighters, man. You know what I mean? They need to adopt a similar kind of attitude because that's how they grow and that's how the sport grows. Ultimately,
Good comment from Francisco here. He says Haney is the favorite, but I like how Prograis fights. He's a live underdog. San Francisco is Haney's hometown. It's also my hometown, but he left the Bay when he was 12 to pursue boxing in Vegas. Yeah, fought in Mexico as well as an amateur,
yeah.
wasn't it? Right?
It's a great story, man, what him and his dad have done. And that's another reason why I give him a lot of credit. And he seems to get a lot of discredit just because he's not this big home run hitter like Tank and other people, you know what I mean? And
Mm.
for some reason, people, they claim they like boxing, but just because you get a guy that doesn't knock everybody out, that seems to be a real defect as far as some people are concerned. Not me. I'm more than happy to watch a guy outbox somebody over 12 rounds. Yes, I will accept that knockouts are exciting, but listen, man, I get entertained by Devin Haney's fights. I've seen nothing boring about them. I don't think he's boring at all. He does go for the knockout. It's just that he's not a knockout puncher. You know what I mean? And that's just, not everybody can be a knockout puncher, man. It's as simple as that.
DS says here, Prograis will give Haney the toughest fight of his career to date. Regis is underrated. Do you agree? Do you think Regis will give him that? Because Loma
I
was a
think I
first
think it
class
will
fight.
be a difficult fight. I do think so because I think Regis has got a lot to prove as well. His last performance wasn't good. In fact, I've got to say he looked pretty beatable in that fight because I actually thought he lost it. And when we did the show after that fight, I think I'm on the record and I stand by every word I said. It wasn't a great fight, but the guy decked him in the second round, or was it the first round even? And I thought that the guy Zarilla, even though he wasn't aggressive enough in terms of him being a challenger, I thought he did the better work of the two fighters and should have got the decision. But he was fighting in Regis Prograis' hometown and he's a challenger. And the consensus in boxing is that you have to rip the title away from the champion, which I something that I've never really necessarily agreed with. But at the end of the day, it is what it is. So I can understand why Regis Prograis retained his title that night, but I think he was extremely fortunate because had I been judging that night, I would have given it to Zarilla. But there you
Mm.
go.
Big up King Dom in the chat. He says, big up TBL. Big up yourself, man. Appreciate the comment, bro. RSV says here, we'll get onto, yeah, because we're going to wrap it up now. You know, we've reached the hour mark, so we'll wrap it up for the show today.
Got some
Um,
breaking news.
breaking news.
Yeah, breaking news involving doping once again. The doping anti the PEDs in sport has reared its ugly head, but you'll be pleased to know, Daryl, that this time it's not boxing, it's football, and it concerns none other than Paul Pogba, who
You know,
apparently,
Stefan did mention that earlier. I didn't bring the
yeah,
comment
has
up,
been
but I did
found
see.
with elevated levels of testosterone in his system. He was tested on the 20th of August after a league game, and he's found to have elevated levels of testosterone in his system. So he's going to have to explain that. So it's not just boxing. I heard a lot of people out there, boxing this, boxing that. It's only in boxing. Well, this one's not only in boxing. Um, but hey, he's going to have to um, provide a reason for these high levels of testosterone or whatever.
Yeah.
Presumably, he's going to fight his case. Let's see what happens. But yeah.
Let's see what happens, man. Interesting news that RSV says won't Bomac get deported after sentencing? We'll see. Could be a possibility. Could be. I think he'd hope that be the case.
Yeah,
If he
but what
does,
if the sentencing's 5 years? You know what I mean?
yeah, he could just get deported and do it over there. But I guess we'd have to see, won't we? You know.
Yeah.
Uh, but yeah, time will tell.
Let's
Like I
hope
said, man,
let's
court
hope
date
he
is not
doesn't
close
get
tonight,
any
so we'll see what happens there with that.
let's hope he doesn't get a custodial sentence because I do fear for him a little bit because, like I said, 53 years old, health issues, going to prison in another country can't be good because let's face it, if he goes to prison in this country, his family's not exactly going to be flying over here every week to see him, are they? His family and friends and people like that. So yeah, it's a serious time for him, man. I'm hoping that he can get the best possible resolution. Put it that way. But he does
Yeah.
need to be punished. There's no doubt about it.
Well, listen, that'll wrap it up for today anyway, man. Great show. We managed to fit a lot in. So thank you all, everybody in the comments. On the way out, don't forget to hit the like button, man. Share the video. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Don't forget, we bring these podcasts every week, man. Bringing the heat. So thank you all for tuning in. Look out for the next one. We haven't got a big fight now, really, until what? Canelo in a couple of weeks,
Yeah,
isn't it,
yeah.
Charles?
But it's interesting, as I said with boxing, it's the gift that keeps giving. So even though there's no big fights, there's always plenty of stuff to talk about, man. You
For
know what I
real,
mean?
yeah. For real.
So yeah,
Well, listen,
that's
guys,
boxing.
yeah.
Yeah,
We'll wrap it up there, man. But we'll see you guys very soon. And obviously, if there's anything breaking, we'll be sure to be on it. But until then, man, we'll catch you guys on the next one. Peace
yeah, it's a
out.
pleasure, man. Thank you very much. Looking forward to speak to you again soon.